Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the swear word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear. And up tonight, have you ever wondered why a chili pepper can light up your brain and your body in ways that feel almost addictive? Why people sometimes can chase the burn like a thrill from a ride, or while others avoid it at all cost. And there's always even a weirder question, like why does the mental rush from eating hot peppers feel oddly familiar to what people describe when they do a cold plunge every morning? That's what we're going to be discussing here tonight on episode 136. What's going on, Swear Nation? So glad to have everyone here, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, or Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for being here and continuing to make this show what it is. And continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads and individuals that are curious about the world of hot, because it's where you can find everything to do with the world of hot. As I had mentioned in the opening, we're going to be diving on a journey today where we're going to go through a deep dive into the connection between capsaicin, that magical fiery compound found in chili peppers, and, well, your emotional state. We're going to be exploring how it rewires your brain in the moment and how it shapes your mood, how it compares to other forms of controlled stress like cold plunges or sauna sessions, and why some people find real mental clarity in the middle of pepper burns. So, buckle up, grab a glass of milk if you need it, because we're going to go beyond the burn to understand how spice isn't just heat, it's about headspace. Now, before we get started, I definitely want to say if you are going to be out at the Austin Chronicle this Sunday, I will see you there. You can find me at the Freaky Ferments booth. There's going to be tons of great vendors out there, and you can pick up yourself some amazing sauce as well as come out, say hi. I will be doing some nice meet and greets as well over at the Freaky Ferments booth. So look forward to seeing you all there. But now let's get into the discussion and why we are here tonight. Let's begin the discussion at the very beginning. So, what happens in your body the moment that you bite into something that's spicy? When you eat a chili pepper, the active compound capsaicin binds to a receptor in your body called TRPV1. Now, you may remember this from one of the prior episodes, so we're going to be just ever so slightly grazing over this rather quick so that we can get into the other areas in which the mental state changes. So, the TRPV1 receptor, think of that as the little alarm system for detecting physical heat. Normally, it fires off when something is dangerously hot, like touching a stove burner, or, but ultimately capsaicin ends up tricking this receptor into thinking that your body is on fire, even though there's no actual flame, no tissue damage, and nothing that really burns you. And here's where it gets interesting. When your brain gets that false alarm, it doesn't just panic, it responds. Your heart rate climbs, your blood vessels dilate, and you might even start to sweat. Your brain realizes it's in a crisis mode and starts releasing chemicals to cope, called endorphins, dopamine, and even a little hit of adrenaline. That cocktail of chemistry is exactly why eating hot peppers can feel like you're riding a roller coaster. There's fear, there's pain, and then comes relief. And sometimes even euphoria. Some people call it a chili high or a pepper high. But let's pause right here and ask, how does it tie into your overall emotional state? Well, think about the last time you were stressed, anxious, or maybe even stuck in your own thoughts. Now, picture biting into a Superhot or a habanero. For just a few minutes, all those background noise that was going on in your head disappears. And why? Because your body forces you into the present moment. The only thing you can focus on is that heat, that burn, and that flood of sensations. In a strange way, capsaicin acts as a reset button for your mind. It overwhelms your system just enough that when the burn fades, you're left with a kind of clarity, almost like your brain got a fresh restart. Now, if this sounds familiar to anyone who's into wellness trends, as it should, that's because I just described the panic, the flood of chemicals, and the reset, which is exactly what people talk about when they do cold plunges. So let's do this. Let's compare the two. You step into freezing water, your body starts to scream. This is dangerous. Get out of here. Your heart then starts to race, your breath quickens, and your body is flooded with adrenaline. But you stick with it. And after that initial shock, your brain starts releasing endorphins and dopamine to help stabilize you. When you get out, you feel clear-headed, calm, maybe even euphoric. Now, that's nearly identical to the sequence your body goes through during a spicy food challenge. So what's going on here? Both hot peppers and cold plunges are what scientists call hermetic stressors. That means they're small, controlled doses of stress that actually make your body and mind stronger instead of harming you. They teach your system to adapt and recover. The psychology behind this is very fascinating. When you deliberately put yourself into a stressful situation, like biting into a ghost pepper or lowering yourself into an ice bath, your brain learns two things. First, that you can survive in this discomfort. Second, that your emotions don't have to control you. You can be in a bit of pain or shock or discomfort and still stay grounded. That lesson translates far beyond the kitchen or the cold tub. It builds resilience. It helps people manage stress in other parts of their life. That's why you'll hear chiliheads say, eating peppers makes me feel calmer afterwards. Or cold plungers say, I feel like I can take on the day after an ice bath. Different triggers, same principle. Now, let's dig deeper into what it means for your emotional state. When you regularly consume spicy foods, your brain starts to adapt. You may find that your baseline mood improves, not because the peppers are some magical antidepressant, but because the act of going through something that is discomforting and getting that endorphin release becomes part of your mental rhythm. There's also evidence summarized by multiple psychology studies. These studies, they show that experiencing short bursts of discomfort followed by relief can condition your brain to seek out challenges. In other words, the peppers teach you to lean into difficulty. And let's not overlook the social aspect. How many times have you laughed with your friends over a spicy wing challenge or bonded with someone by daring each other to try a hotter sauce? That social connection paired with the brain chemistry of capsaicin can massively boost your mood. Humans are wired to connect through shared experiences, and spice is one of the most visceral, immediate ways to do that. So let's wrap up this first part of our discussion. Capsaicin doesn't just fire up your tongue, it taps into your emotional wiring. It creates stress, forces presence, and delivers relief while leaving you with clarity, much like a cold plunge or an even tough workout. Spice, in this sense, is more than food. It's a mental tool, a way to train resilience, build connection, and reframe how we experience stress. Now that we've set the stage with the mind body link, let's shift gears a little bit because it's not just eating peppers that can shape the emotional world, it's also growing them. The act of growing from seed to harvest has its own powerful impact on our mental health. So, we've talked about how eating peppers and the capsaicin rush can help reset your emotional state and even mimic the benefits of things like cold plunges. But now I want to zoom out a little bit because there's another side of being a chili head that doesn't get talked about enough. And that's really the growing of peppers themselves aspect. Now, I'll tell you what, the mental shift that happens when you plant a seed, nurture it, watch it sprout, and finally harvest the pods that you grew with your own hands, it's just powerful for your mind as the overall heat is for your tongue. So let's dig into what happens when gardening peppers becomes not just a hobby, but a mental health practice. There's something really symbolic about holding pepper seeds. It's tiny, almost fragile, yet inside it lives the potential to grow into really something fiery, vibrant, and full of life. From a psychological perspective, planting seeds has been linked to the feelings of hope and anticipation. Studies in horticulture therapy have really started to show that the act of just putting the seeds into the soil creates a sense of future thinking. You literally are investing in tomorrow. For someone who's struggling with stress, anxiety, or even depression, that little act of faith can be huge. It's like telling yourself things can grow and things can change. And the cool thing about peppers is you don't even need a massive garden. A windowsill, a pot, some soil, and that's good enough to start. The accessibility makes it an easy doorway into what I'd call pepper therapy. Now, fast forward a couple of weeks, the seeds have now sprouted, and suddenly they're not just hope. You are now responsible for them. The stage psychologically is all about nurturing and accountability. You've got to water it, you've got to give it light, and maybe even talk to it if you're one of those people. And honestly, I do. So, that daily check in that helps kind of build into a rhythm. For mental health, that's gold. When your days feel chaotic, your pepper plants become your anchor. You have a reason to get up, open the blinds, and care for something. In mental health research, this is called behavioral activation. Small, yet meaningful actions that help pull you out of negative cycles. But there's also a challenge here. If you forget to water or you neglect it, the plant starts to struggle. And that part can be discouraging. That's one of the cons of gardening. It mirrors your own ups and downs. If you're not in the best headspace, you might see the plant fail and start to think, like, this is my fault. The truth is, every gardener loses plants sometimes, and learning to accept that without shame is part of the process. And honestly, that's part of healing. So, fast forward again, months of care, adjusting the soil, maybe battling some pests, and waiting and waiting. And finally, you see some flowers. That's the first sign of fruit to be set. That's when patience pays off. Psychologically, this stage is all about delayed gratification in our world where everything is instant. Likes, notifications, fast food. Gardening peppers really starts to teach you to slow down and put some trust and time in. Research in psychology actually shows that people who practice patience and delayed gratification have better emotional regulation, and reduced anxiety. When you're used to working with nature's pace, you start to realize that not everything has to happen right now. And that lesson can carry over to other parts of life, careers, relationships, even manage your own goals. Then comes the big day, harvest. You get to go out there, you're running out with either a bag, your hands, a t-shirt, whatever you can get your hands on. And you go pick a pepper off that plant that you started from seeds months ago. That achievement right there is the satisfaction. And here's where gratitude sneaks in. When you cook with that pepper or eat it fresh, or maybe you're just not really into consuming spicy products, you are now consuming your efforts, your patience, and your care. That creates a deeper appreciation, both for the food and for yourself. There's even research showing that gardening and harvesting your own food is linked to higher levels of satisfaction and lower levels of stress. It's like a reward system built into the natural world. Now, let's go ahead and just keep this 100% real. Gardening isn't all sunshine and ripe pods. It's got some cons too, and they do matter for your mental state. Things like pests and disease. Nothing will break your heart faster than watching aphids or mold wipe out weeks of effort. Climate stress can play a factor in this as well. Too much heat, not enough sun, sudden frost. Nature can throw you curveballs. I should know best because Texas doesn't even know what its weather wants to be like until it happens. So, that compounded with time and patience, and you're looking for instant results, gardening can feel kind of slow and frustrating. So as you're working through this, know that those are going to be the headaches and hurdles that you run into. But there is a flip side. Those challenges can actually build resilience. Every gardener learns to problem solve, adapt, and sometimes even accept loss. And those lessons mirror life. If you can handle losing a plant, you can start to handle setbacks in other areas without crumbling. So when you put all these together, seed, the sprout, the flower, the fruit, what we're really talking about is a journey of emotional growth. The seed is your hope. The sprouts are your responsibilities. The flowers are your patience. And the harvest, well, that's your gratitude. And along the way, the setbacks teach us resilience. When you zoom out, you realize that gardening peppers is less about the harvest and more about the personal growth that happens while you're waiting. That's why in therapy, especially for trauma and depression, gardening sometimes is prescribed as an activity. They call it horticultural therapy. But chili heads, we just call it growing peppers. So we've looked at the burn inside your body, and we've looked at the growth outside in your garden. But now, where do we go to get the answers for the next big question? What happens when you stop eating spicy food? What happens to your tolerance? And what does it look like when you build it back up again? Is it starting from scratch? Or does your body remember the burn? That's where we're headed next. The science and strategy of building and rebuilding your spice tolerance. But now let's talk about something that every chili head has experienced at some point: tolerance. Because let's face it, one day you're chomping down ghost peppers like they're candy, and then maybe life happens and you take a break, and suddenly a jalapeno starts to feel like it's going to blow your head off. So, what's really happening here? Does your body forget? Or does it somehow remember the heat? Let's go ahead and unpack this. So, first things first, what does it mean when we say tolerance? Simply, tolerance is your body's way of adapting to repeat exposure to capsaicin. Remember that the TRPV1 receptor that we talked about earlier and on a prior episode, the pain receptor that capsaicin binds to. Well, that repeated exposure to your body is basically desensitizing those receptors. They don't fire off aggressively, and your brain learns, okay, this isn't actually damage. It's just that chilihead life again, although we all wish it could. So the more often you eat spicy food, the less intense that spicy, fiery punch feels. Now that's tolerance. Now, here's where things get interesting. If you take a break from spicy food, then what happens? Well, research shows that if you go without capsaicin for weeks or months, your TRPV1 receptors really start to reset and they go back to the more sensitive state when you first started eating spicy foods. So yes, your tolerance does technically decrease. But here's the kicker. Studies also show and suggest that once that you've built a tolerance in the past, your body can regain it faster. It's similar to how muscle memory, but this is for spice receptors. The first few burns may feel rough. You may bounce back quicker than somebody that's just starting at zero. But if you're a hardcore chilihead who went to take a break, don't worry. You're not starting from scratch. You've still got some seasoning in those receptors. Now, let's say you want to rebuild your tolerance after a break, right? Or maybe you've started new and you just want to level up without really feeling it in your mouth and feeling like you're on fire every night. I'm sure you're wondering, how do you do this? It's really simple. We're going to break this one down in a few steps here. So step one, start low, start slow. Think jalapenos, serranos, cayennes. You don't need to just jump straight into the deep end with Superhots. Step two, gradual acceleration. Increase the heat in small steps. Move from jalapenos to habaneros and then to ghost peppers. This helps train your body over time. And you'll notice that the overall peppers that once felt overwhelming suddenly become manageable. So step three, this is where eating something spicy once a week isn't just to move the needle that much, but a little bit every day is where you start to build that true tolerance. Finally, step four, you're going to start wanting to pair the capsaicin. So capsaicin is a fat soluble. So when you eat it with foods that contain fat, think like cheese, avocado, or oils, it can help your body process it in a much smoother way while still building tolerance. So now that you've heard the different steps in which to start or to rebuild, there's something that I'm sure a lot of those that are just starting out are curious about. And so we're going to dive into busting a couple of these myths while we're at it. So myth one, drinking milk right after peppers ruins your tolerance. This is absolutely not true. Milk simply just helps wash away the capsaicin temporarily. It doesn't reset those receptors. So myth number two, you can enjoy mild sauces once you build your tolerance. This is also not true. While your threshold for pain goes up, you can still taste and enjoy the flavors of mild sauces. In fact, a lot of chili heads rediscover the subtle flavors once the burn isn't distracting them as much. Myth number three, You can only build tolerance by eating raw peppers. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, that is absolutely not true. Sauces, powders, flakes, tincture, however you want to go about it, as long as it contains capsaicin, the delivery method does not matter as much as the overall consistency of exposure. Now, building tolerance sounds awesome, but let's look at both sides. Let's dive into some pros real quick, and let's dive into some cons right after that. Pros, you get to experience hotter peppers without the overwhelming pain. You can appreciate the subtle flavors in the Superhots. And for some, you gain bragging rights amongst other chili heads in the community, if that's your thing. Some cons? Well, you might find that normal spicy food just doesn't hit the same anymore. That buffalo wing at the bar might taste slightly bland. You could end up chasing heat more than flavor, and that's something to watch out for because the chili culture is about the taste as much as it is about the tolerance. Taking the time to allow your taste buds to take in what you're eating and appreciate all the different flavor notes that are in there is part of the fun of allowing your tolerance to really grow. Now, here's a question that I hear a lot. If I stop eating spicy food, does that reset me completely? And the answer is simply no, not fully. You still get more sensitive, yes, but your history with capsaicin doesn't just disappear. Think of it like an exercise. If you stopped working out, your muscles shrink, sure. But when you start again, you regain that strength faster than, say, a beginner. Same deal with spice tolerance. So if you've been away from the heat, but you're afraid about jumping back into it, just know that the first week might feel like you might be back at square one, but your body still remembers. So, how do you intentionally raise your tolerance if that's your end goal? Well, here's a simple framework. Let's do it in this way. You do number one. First off, you start with a daily dose. You commit to eating a small amount of spice every single day. Even just a dash of hot sauce counts. Second, stepping ladders are where you're really going to take it next. And what do I mean by that? Well, every week or two, bump up the heat level just slightly. Add hotter peppers or use more of the same sauce. Number three, you're going to want to start mixing it up. Use different pepper varieties. This keeps your receptors adapting to the range of the different capsaicinoids and not just one type. Track it. This is where you're going to take it. You're going to write it down in a journal, whether you want to call it the heat journal, whatever. Write it down. What you ate, how it felt, how you handled it. This helps set your overall and see your overall progress. Before long, you'll notice that your threshold is climbing. What once made you sweat buckets now feels like a warm hug from your favorite chili pepper. So, to wrap this up, tolerance is real. It resets when you stop, but it's faster to rebuild once you've been there before. It's all about consistency, patience, and a little bit of strategy. Now that we've covered the burn inside your brain, the therapy in your garden, and the mechanics of tolerance. But before we close this out, I want to tie everything together. How capsaicin, gardening, and tolerance shape not just our taste buds, but our mental resilience, creativity, and community as chili heads. That's where we'll land in the final section. All right, so we've gone on this long journey tonight. We've talked about the science of capsaicin and how it connects to your emotional states We compared that fiery rush to things like cold plunges, the shock to your system to something that leaves you feeling stronger. And we explored the therapy of gardening, seed to harvest, and the way it feeds your mental state as much as your body. Then we dug into tolerance, rebuilding, and strategizing for different levels of your spice game. So now let's pull it all together, because chili culture isn't just about eating hot food. It's about who we become through it. When you eat something super hot, your brain screams, danger, danger, Will Robinson. Your body floods with signals, your heart rate spikes, sweat pours, endorphins fire, and the fascinating part is you push through it. That little battle at the dinner table is more than just heat. It's a lesson in resilience. It teaches you that discomfort can be temporary and even enjoyable when you frame it right. It's the same lesson people take from running long distances, lifting heavy weights, and yes, plunging into freezing cold water at 6 a.m. It's that reminder that I can handle more than I thought I could. And that spills into the life outside of peppers. And then there's gardening. Think about it. Planting a seed is an act of hope. You care for it daily through the ups and the downs, not knowing if the harvest will meet your expectations. Then that process changes you. You learn patience, responsibility, and the art of letting go of things that don't go perfectly. And the reward of biting into the pepper that you grew yourself isn't just about the taste, it's about the journey from dirt to dinner plate. Studies back this up. Gardening reduces stress hormones, boosts serotonin, improves your mood, and it's grounding in a way that few other hobbies can. When your crop happens to be a fiery pepper, you literally are growing resilience from the soil up. Now, tolerance. Beyond the science of receptors and desensitization, there is a mental framing that comes with it. When you raise your tolerance, you're not just building a physical adaptability to handle more capsaicin, you're training your mind to stay calm under pressure. And that sting of your tongue becomes familiar. That panic subsides faster, and you learn to ride the wave instead of fight it. And when life throws actual heat at you, stress, setbacks, challenges, you've already rehearsed. Resilience has been found through peppers. And here's where it all ties into the chili culture. We're not just a bunch of people obsessed with heat. While we do enjoy it, we're not just that. We are a community built upon a shared experience. Every chili head remembers their first burn. Every chili head has a story of pushing too far, sweating it out, and laughing with their friends, maybe even regretting it for a moment. But, as always, coming back for more. That shared bond is powerful. It builds friendships, it creates events like hot sauce festivals, it inspires sauce makers to push boundaries. It's a culture of curiosity, courage, and connection. So what's the big picture here? Well, capsaicin teaches resilience. Gardening teaches patience. Tolerance teaches consistency. And together, they create a culture that celebrates growth, physically, mentally, and communally. We don't just chase the burn for the sake of pain. We chase it because it makes us feel alive, connected, and a little bit more capable of handling life for whatever it throws our way. So the next time that you bite into a pepper or crack open a new bottle of hot sauce, remember, it's more than just heat. It's a reminder of resilience. It's a therapy session grown in the soil. It's a test of patience, tolerance, and curiosity. And it's a reminder that even in the burn, there's growth. And that's the true gift of being a chilihead. All right, Swear Nation, that wraps up tonight's fiery deep dive from the science of capsaicin to the soil in your garden, from tolerance to the community. We've walked through a journey of what it means to be alive in this spicy world. So stay curious, stay resilient, and always keep bringing the heat. If you enjoyed tonight's podcast, let me know down below if you have any topics that you would like covered or expanded upon, as well as if you would like me to start diving into other different creators and what they're cranking out, others as they're doing challenges. If you would like those discussions brought onto the podcast, let me know down below, as well as any guests that you would like to see. I want to say thank you so much for everyone that's been rocking since day one, all the way to those that have just recently found the channel. I am so thankful for all of y'all. Thank y'all so much for making the Swear Word Podcast what it is. Continue to share this on out. Please leave me a review if you are on a platform that allows for reviews for the podcast. It helps immensely with the algorithm and getting this out in front of the right people. Also, if you're going to be out at the Austin Chronicle this Sunday, September 7th, I will be out there at the Freaky Ferments booth. Look forward to seeing you, meeting you, and grab some hot sauce. There's going to be tons of great vendors out there. I cannot wait to be there, as well as we have some upcoming ones. We have the League of Fire Houston belt match. I'm excited for that. I will be out there as well. That is September 26th. So see me there. I will be competing, meet and greet as well there. Tons of great vendors going to be out there, spicy cocktails. Have a great time. It is from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. on the 26th of September. And I will also be at the North Texas Hot Sauce Fest. That will be held at Martin House Brewing. That will be October 18th. I look forward to seeing you there. Tons of great different sauce and spicy product vendors all throughout Texas. So head on over there and sign up. Free tickets for that as well. So be there, have a blast. I will see you there as well. And want to give a shout out for our sponsors, podvision.io. If you're looking to grow your brand, start your brand, you've hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io for all of those needs, as well as webdx.one. Maybe you have an online site, maybe you had a guy at one point and you lost contact with them. Highly recommend checking out webdx.one. Makes it simple, painless, easy. Best of all, you get to focus on what you do best and leave that to WebDX to make you looking great online. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been the Swear Word.